gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's April the 2nd, 2023. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined this morning by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, and Stephen Wagner, as we discuss the news of the day. And we got the news of several days to talk about. We did not do a show yesterday morning because we felt that all of you viewers out there would think that Matt Shodell is just one big April Fool's joke. So we decided to save talk about the weekend for this morning, and a lot went on out in Coral Gables this weekend. A lot of recruits passing through. Team continued spring practice as we now go into a new week here. We're down to the final 2, folks, of spring practice, and I think we'll start there this morning, guys. The team's making a lot of progress. You know, it's like we've seen a lot ourselves. We've spoken to a lot of people who have been out there pretty much for the duration, and the feedback, which I will support, is unanimous that you do see progress. Now, Matt's going to say, "Oh, yeah, everybody says the same damn thing every spring." He is not wrong. Okay, he might be an April Fool's joke, but he is not wrong on that front. You know, that is the feeling probably in just about every camp in the United States. You know, it's like signing day. Signing day, you sign 25 guys. You feel, oh my God, we're going to compete for the national championship next year. Spring practice, you roll out there. You play against yourself every day, and you feel like your team is going to compete for the national championship as well. But I do see discernible improvement in the foundation of the program, which I think is significant. I do see some shortfalls that I think that they will look to address in the transfer portal here that begins in a couple weeks. But just to briefly sum it up, Matt and Steven, I like what I'm seeing at quarterback. I think the quarterback room is in a great place. Somebody is going to leave after the spring. I can't. There's no chance that every single guy is staying for the duration. I'm guessing that it might be Jakari Brown. That's the one that makes the most sense to me. But you know, we will see how that goes. But the quarterback room's looking very good, including Jakari, by the way, who is progressively getting better. He is just not as good as the 3 guys that are in front of him right now. And Judd Anderson, the true freshman, is not that far behind. But if you take Reese Poppenberger and Emory Williams behind Cam Ward, Jakari Brown is number 4 right now. And you know, how long is that going to be good enough for him? I think we might be reaching the end of the road for that, but we will see here when the portal opens in a couple weeks. The running back room I'm seeing improvement there. Christopher Johnson taking a huge step forward this spring. He is definitely going to factor into playing time. We don't know yet what's up with Mark Fletcher, but I do think they're going to go in the portal and look for one more dude. It makes too much sense. And the thing that, you know, that people I think have to understand, guys, is that when you have a quarterback like Cam Ward, who is a potentially generational type of guy, even though he's only here for 1 year, this guy could be the best quarterback in the country this season. You owe it to your program. You must do everything that you can do to surround him with the best talent that you can surround them with. And remember, when they were recruiting in the portal the last cycle, Cam Ward wasn't on the roster. Okay. So they weren't able to capitalize on Cam Ward being at Miami like they will be able to capitalize on that now when the portal opens in a couple weeks. There's going to be a few dudes out there, in my opinion, I hope I'm right, that are going to want to come play with Cam Ward. I think they need a running back. I think they need 1 or even 2 receivers on offense to just round out what they have. The O-line's looking very good. Tight ends are looking very good. This offense, you get me a dude running back and 2 dudes at receiver to go with, you know, Jacoby George, Xavier Restrepo, and these guys. Miami could be one of the best offensive teams in the country, if not the best. That's how strongly I feel about it. Cam Ward is that special. So I think we got that to look forward to here as they finish spring, hopefully keeping everybody healthy, and then jump right into the portal after the spring game. Defense, definitely still a work in progress. You've got Mesidor and Bain missing spring. You got Malgoa missing spring. Those are your three, top guys, really. I mean, on defense, I do think they will be looking in the portal for at least one more defensive tackle. I think they'll be looking in the portal, possibly, depending on who's there, for a linebacker to complement Malgoa and Wesley Bassane. And I think that I personally hope and think that they need two more guys in the secondary, and I think they'll be shopping there as well. So that means that 15 guys, 16 guys that are currently out there at spring practice or on the team right now are going to have to depart. And that's just the way of today's college football world. But this is not a time to worry about not making the tough decisions. I don't think Mario Cristobal will have any problem making the tough decisions. This is a unique opportunity with Cam Ward to go for the gusto this year in 2024 and have a program-altering year that really sets Miami on the trajectory that Mario came here to take this program on. And Matt, I'll start with you. I just think that this is a great opportunity for the program, and I think we are going to see them go for it here. Not just ending spring practice on a high, but when the portal opens in a couple weeks, to try to find a few more impact players to round out this roster.
Well, my initial thought is I could have had an extra 6 minutes and 23 seconds of sleep, because all the stuff you just said, it's just noise candy. There's not eye candy because we're ugly. It's noise candy. You're just feeding, stone crabs to the masses. But look, the whole one quarterback's going to leave.
I got to admit, I see Steven's eyes starting to close down there.
One quarterback's going to leave. You're getting in a receiver transfer. Solve it with one. Solve it easily, Gary. You already have the answer. Jakari moves to receiver. He's your receiver transfer. You lost a quarterback. Boom. You don't have to kick anyone off the team. You don't got to add any other transfers.
Yeah, Jakari will go to a mid-level program and get a chance.
I have heard from people around the program that they expect either Reese or Jakari to leave after the spring. I agree with Gary there. As far as all this talk about the offense, everyone's fixated on the offense. The truth is, last year's offense was top 30 in pretty much every category. Total that matters: total yards, scoring, offense. It wasn't a bad. It's like we're talking like this was a horrible offense. This program-changing quarterback. Like, what's Miami going to be, Gary? Top 10? No, I think they'll probably be a top 15, top 20 offense, which they're coming from 26th in the country or whatever it was. Like, they'll be better on offense. My concern is they're going to be worse on defense. And, nobody's talking about that. All anyone talks about is Cam Ward. Are we going to get another receiver? What's going to happen with Mark Fletcher? The offensive line. No one's talking about the defense for some bizarre reason. I don't understand why. That is what
I just talked about it. I said I think they need 3 or 4 starters in the portal.
People should stop fixating on Cam Ward in the offense, because this team will either be great or average based on the defense. You could try to outscore teams and win 45-42 and 38-35, but that's not a consistent way to win championships. And, Gary also, something he said, which he just glossed over, he makes it sound like it's a great thing that Miami's going to take 6 to 10 more transfers and kick 15 guys off the team.
I didn't say 10. I did not say 10. You didn't hear me say 10.
I just heard the positions. You said a receiver,
7. April Fool's,
receiver, a receiver, a running back.
I said a running back, 1 to 2 receivers, a defensive tackle, and 1 to 2 secondary guys, and maybe a linebacker. That's 7.
Right, 6 guys. That's 6, I think.
7. I think
7. Whatever. So I said 6 to 10. God forbid. God forbid.
No,
anyway, 7 guys. So Gary makes it sound like bringing in what essentially is what's 7 divided by 22, 33% of what should be a starting lineup. Like what Mario is seeing this spring, he's saying only 67% of this team is any good. We got to get rid of the rest of them and bring in 33% new starters. So that's what 7 divided by.
They're young. It's a young team.
Because that's what 7 divided by 22 is math-wise. So essentially, what Gary's saying, he's not wrong, but what he should be saying is, instead of making it sound like noise candy, it should sound more like, I don't like kale. Okay, so to me, it should be like kale chips. That's what I'm hearing, because it's not good when your coach tries to get the pieces he needs before the spring in the first portal window, and then realizes, oh, wait a minute, 33% of my starters need to be replaced in the portal because I assume he's not bringing in guys who are just going to be like nobodies, right? That's not the idea in the second portal window.
It's a freshman-dominated football team.
It doesn't matter because
if you're trying to, you think Marquise Lightfoot?
Then why are you even talking about this? Then why are you even talking about this year? Are we talking about this year's team or 3 years from now? Like, what do you want me to
this year's team?
So that's the point. So how many freshmen are starting this year right now, Gary?
There'll be very few.
Right. So I don't understand what you're saying.
As there should be.
The players they have that they know are starting, they're trying to replace 33% of them. I don't understand what you're arguing about. Like, that's what they're doing.
What I'm saying is
it's a very young... Mario thinks. That's a sign of what Mario thinks and knows he has, which he would know. He's the best, person to know it, right? He's a head coach, been around the block, has seen championship teams at Alabama, has seen really good teams at Oregon that are better than this team, and he's saying a third of my guys that I think are starting need to be replaced. Like, that's not a good sign to me. That's a whole new bunch of guys that need to be integrated in a very short period of time before fall practice. And whether you like it or not, Gary, you want to interrupt me 10 times, whatever. That's just the truth.
Trying not to, but you're leading the public in the wrong direction. They're not being replaced. Okay, if you go and you get a stud running back, for example, you're not replacing Chris Johnson. You're not replacing Mark Fletcher. You are adding to them a seasoned dude that has more experience than them, more seasoning than them, that right now is like a junior or senior and is just flat better than them at this stage of their development. That's making your football team better. When you have a quarterback like Cam Ward, you are out of.
And why aren't they replacing every position? They're replacing those specific 6 to 7 positions because those positions don't have the top end talent that they need to be a champion. Like, whether they're freshmen or sophomores or 9th-year seniors, he's saying we need more. This isn't good enough. We need a different starter. That's what it means. Like, whether you want to say it or not, Gary, you say it in different ways. That's what it means.
Steven, don't worry. You're going to get to chime in a minute. We just gotta clean up this mess up here in the upper right-hand corner of everyone's screen. All right, listen.
I could have walked to the bagel shop down the street from my apartment, eaten, ordered a coffee, and come back all in this amount of time.
I know. But this is such a great argument. All right, Matt, listen. At quarterback, you got a 5th-year guy starting, right? Correct? You agree?
It's senior. He's a senior, yeah.
Okay. At tight end, you got Arroyo, who's an older guy. He was hurt last year, but he's played some college football. He's an older guy. Like, pretty good about Arroyo. You don't need to go in the portal and get a tight end, okay? At receiver, you've got Restrepo. You've got Jacoby.
You're making my argument.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
You're literally making my – you don't even understand what the argument is.
They would go in the portal and get 1 to 2 guys. JoJo Trader is going to be great. He's never played a down of college football. You are playing the Florida Gators on opening day, okay? A game that Miami must win. I don't care what anybody says if they want to dispute that. That is a must-win game for this program. You are playing the Florida Gators on opening day. You're not going to go try to beat the Florida Gators with JoJo Trader, as good as he will probably be down the road. The same thing with Nikar. So if you great young prospects, you're going to play them a lot this year, but you have an opportunity with a quarterback that is at the top of the food chain in college football. You need to surround him with dudes, okay? They don't have a franchise running back right now in this program. They just don't, not even close. Mark Fletcher's a great back, complimentary back. We'll see how he comes back from all these injuries. He's not a franchise running back. He's not Willis McGahee. He's not Clinton Portis. He's not Frank Gore. Like, he's not getting, they have an obligation to go fill this roster with dudes, okay, and give themselves a chance to get to the playoff this year, okay, because, they are pretty solid in certain areas. O-line looking very, very good. They're going to have 8 guys that they can probably count on there, 9, maybe 9. You don't need to go in the portal and get another offensive lineman. They already got Carpenter, great move. Carpenter's starting to look pretty good out there at practice as well, by the way. Defensively, they don't have enough. I mean, they just don't have enough. You just said it yourself, and I agree with you actually on that. They got to get a stud defensive tackle if they can find one. A guy that changes the game. They don't have that right now. He's doing great out there at practice. Harrison Hunt, great story. He's been playing for 4 years now. Those guys aren't changing ball games. If you can go get that guy, you got to do it.
You do realize all you're doing is agreeing with me that 33% of the starters need to be replaced right now because they're not good enough. That's all you're doing is agreeing with me. Like, I don't understand. You literally opened for 5 minutes and 23 seconds saying this exact same thing. You're repeating it.
But I'm trying to show you that they are right about it. They're right. This is not a negative. Like, you were spinning it as a negative that they have.
I spun it. If you want to say I spun, the only thing I, yeah, go ahead.
You were spinning it as a negative. It's not a negative. It's a positive that they are recognizing that they're not good enough at those spots yet. And
you know what would be a positive? It would be a positive if they had recruited guys 2 years ago that could be starters now, or if they had gone in the first transfer portal and had the guys they needed in the entirety of spring practice into the summer. That would have been a positive. Now it's freak out time. You're competing with every other school out there trying to get guys. The other schools that all need the same guys now are trying to get them, whereas it was a little easier in January to grab guys. You can argue all you want. This is a positive. It's wonderful. It's not. Like, I don't understand what planet you're from, but it's not. Miami's not really
number one.
It's certainly not Earth.
Number one, Mario's has had two classes. Okay, these kids are freshmen, in some cases redshirt freshmen and sophomores. They're young kids in the early stages of development who may start to emerge this year. Some of them, but they're young kids. That's number one. And number two, the game changer is you have a quarterback that is respected at the highest level all across the country, who should be a magnet for some dudes. Steven, thank you for your patience. Thank you for
Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you for not going to the bagel shop.
I don't want to hear Steven. I want to go eat breakfast. I'm done. Steven, you agree?
Matt, you're out. Go.
I wish.
No, I'm not letting him leave yet.
That would be the best present ever given him.
But you've listened to this. Somehow this turned into an argument. But you've heard what I think. You've heard what Matt thinks. I did actually agree with a lot of what Matt said. Actually,
sound like it.
Well, no, I do, but I don't think it's a negative that they have to go out and get 33% of their starters right now in the portal to try to become a championship.
No, it's a huge positive. A huge positive.
If they fill it with the right guys, if they're able to get those guys. Steven, what do you think? Those guys going to be out there?
Okay, well, a couple of things. But my biggest takeaway is, Miami might need to go get some talent in this transfer portal window. But instead of saying, Miami needs to find, 33% of a new roster, I look at what positions need to be filled and how crucial are those positions. A quarterback is much, much, much more valuable than a linebacker. Everyone agrees that. No one has a problem with that. So, every position isn't made equally. This would be a totally different conversation if Miami needed a quarterback, if Miami still had these massive quarterback questions. They don't. They have a question at positions that, quite frankly, they're nice to have, but they're not wildly essential to win in college football. You need a running back, which would be nice to have, but not absolutely essential, considering how invested Miami is in its offensive line and how much Mario Cristobal wants to play through his offensive line. Miami needs maybe one or two receivers that I think more than anything would probably just be adding depth. Cam Ward, if he's as good as we think he's going to be, he should elevate those positions immediately. The receiver position should immediately look better with a much, 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 much better quarterback. A linebacker is not nearly as important in college football as a position. It is not nearly as important as it was 2-3 decades ago in the 1990s and the early 2000s, whenever football was still run oriented and whenever running backs still had the same amount of, or when running backs still had, that amount of value. I think I think I'd have much more concerns about Miami's defense if we were looking here saying, man, Miami really needs a pass rusher. Miami has to get a big, huge, massive run-stopping defensive tackle, which is what we're hoping Justin Scott is going to be. If Justin Scott is as good as we think he's going to be, that can be your defensive tackle. That can be your nose. If Miami really needed a pass rusher, then I would have a little bit of concern. But Miami doesn't need the most essential positions. And the positions that they do need help at, for the most part, you're just talking about maybe adding depth. You're not talking about going out there and finding a full-blown dude who can start in someone else's place. And, like I'm looking at receiver, JoJo Trader, Xavier Restrepo, and Jacoby George. If they all stay healthy, hopefully those can just be your three guys. And anyone else who you might be getting, hopefully should just be filling out the roster, and that's about it. And you shouldn't have to be overly reliant on someone who you had to go get through the transfer portal. So I'm not overly concerned because, Miami does need a little bit of help in the transfer portal. But the way I see it, this is more about building depth as opposed to going out there and, answering very, very serious questions, which, quite frankly, is what Miami had to do a year ago whenever we still didn't know what Miami was going to do about corner. And, they really needed to get Kiko Maui-Noa at linebacker. I do think maybe that Miami needs some safety help. I think they could probably benefit from a corner too. Just because right now Miami secondary is not that deep, start to bottom. Obviously losing Cam Kinchins last year, that definitely hurts, and losing the amount of talent at safety that they did last year hurts. We think Zaquan Patterson is going to be really good. I think Zaquan is a guy who will be talented enough to start by the time that Miami goes to Gainesville next year. Whether or not that's actually the case, and the coaches feel like he's ready to start, that's another thing for the coaches to decide. But I don't view Miami as needing talent at the most critical and vital of positions. If Miami needed a quarterback and Miami needed a clear wide receiver who's capable of starting immediately and elevating the receiver room, I would be a little bit more concerned. But the fact is that Miami doesn't need help at the absolutely most critical positions.
All right. So this is spring about development, like developing these young guys, like Zaquan Patterson, Steven just mentioned, seeing how far they can get this spring, and then go into the portal and try to supplement what you have. There is a quiet confidence in this program that if they can fill those gaps, that they can be extremely competitive, for the ACC title this year. Right or wrong, we'll find out. But that is the feeling within the program, that they are making strides, that the foundation of the program is there. They are hoping to make a significant move here in year 3 of Mario, and we will see how that goes. But so spring practice continues this week. We'll practice today. We will have practice Thursday, and then we'll practice on Saturday. Saturday, they are going to have their first major scrimmage of the spring. A lot of people thought there was going to be a scrimmage last Saturday. There was not really. They had a 30-minute live period. It's like a little maybe like a mini scrimmage. Probably went 30 players or so. I didn't count. Can't get an accurate count on the exact number of plays. But this coming Saturday is going to be a big scrimmage. They're going to get a lot of guys, a lot of work, and see where they're really at this spring. So we'll be monitoring all of that for you here this week. We'll have more coverage for you later on the website today. A couple interesting interviews that we're supposed to have today that should be of extreme interest to you guys. We're gonna one of which is going to be Elijah Lofton, a young kid that I think is going to be a generational talent for the Hurricanes. Has made an impact out there in his first few weeks as a true freshman, unlike much that we have seen, quite honestly. I remember guys like Duke Johnson coming in and lighting, raising eyebrows early in his career. There have been a few others. This kid, from the day he stepped on campus, has shown that he has a chance to be a sensational college football player, and they are going to be giving him that opportunity to do so. And that's why just a couple weeks into his first spring practice, he is being brought to speak to the media tomorrow, because he deserves it. He's earned it. And so we will have that story for you on the website later this morning. We're also talking to Akeem Messidor, a guy I'm looking forward to getting a really good update on. Such a critical piece of this football team as the defensive end opposite of Ruben Bain. We'll get caught up on where he is in his comeback from injuries and I do expect him in the starting lineup up there in Gainesville weekend 1. So we'll have that update for you on the website about midday today as well. But there are some other things for us to talk about this weekend. And guys, let's flash back to the recruiting weekend of the last days. A lot of really big time prospects flowing through Coral Gables. You had the top prospect in the 2026 class come in Jakeem Stewart, a whole lineup of other guys that, DJ Pickett, another 5-star guy who I think is ultimately going to end up at Miami. He had a great visit on Saturday. Stephen, I'm going to give the floor back to you. You had a front row seat for all this recruiting action this weekend. Give us your summation of what you think the Hurricanes got done this past weekend, and then what's still left on the plate here coming up over the last two weeks of spring practice.
Yeah, there were some guys who I definitely feel more confident in Miami's chances for after getting down to campus this weekend. The biggest one, obviously, is DJ Pickett, number 4 overall prospect in the country, number 1 cornerback. Bunch of Miami ties. His cousin Booker was a really big signee in the 2024 class. His uncle, Booker's father, obviously played there. And then Miami is also recruiting DJ's younger brother, Cannon, who I believe is a 2026 offensive lineman. So that was obviously the biggest one that I felt was really that Miami took a step forward with after this weekend. And kind of the biggest thing that I've seen the biggest challenge that I've seen Miami has with DJ right now is just getting him to campus, period. He's visited campus twice now this spring. He doesn't plan on being back before his official visit. We saw that he told On3 Steve Wiltfong, his father told On3 Steve Wiltfong that he may go back to Eugene for the Oregon Ducks spring game. So we're kind of continuing to monitor what happens there because right now it really seems like Miami, LSU, and Oregon are kind of in the best positions for him. But I do feel a lot better in Miami's chances to get DJ Pickett after this weekend. I even went so far as to say that I think they're trending in the right direction for him. But he obviously wasn't the only guy who made the trip. A couple other guys were Adonis Curry. He's a 2025 4-star cornerback, top 75 recruit in the country out of California. I think Miami is very quietly turning into a team to watch for Adonis Curry. Probably a name that we haven't talked about as much on the site, and probably a name that Miami fans wouldn't be as familiar with, given that he's from California, and Miami only offered him in February. I believe they offered him sometime around Valentine's Day, but I am very, very quietly liking the direction that Miami is moving in for him. I definitely think that he could be back on campus. He said they are talking about official visits. They're kind of discussing when they can set one up, and he is interested in taking that OV to Miami. Then, of course, he had some other dudes like Byron Lewis, top, I think, 175, 200 running back out of American Heritage. Kind of built like a little bit of a shorter Mark Fletcher. Very bulky, very talented, good but not great top end speed, very smooth runner, tremendous vision, somehow always finds a way to fall forward. He was another really, really big local guy. And then obviously we had a bunch of 2026 guys here too. Diabell, number 14 overall prospect out of American Heritage. He was on campus. Really like where things sit with him. Then you had Noah Grubbs as well. One of the top 2026 quarterbacks. He's a 4-star in the On3 industry ranking. I think he's top 150 as well. I really liked the direction that things are moving for him. It seemed like up and down the entire list. I mean, it was just absolutely covered in 4- and 5-star prospects. These really big name blue chip recruits, a ton of which are going to end up getting back to Miami for official visits But there were a handful of guys who I felt like Miami's definitely trending up for after the visit. One of them was Bryce Fitzgerald out of Christopher Columbus, 4-star 2025 safety. Then, like I just said, DJ Pickett, another a 5-star 2025 cornerback. I think that Miami's definitely moving in the right direction after a lot of these guys got down for their visits.
So to sum it all up, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that the continuation of solid recruiting under Mario Cristobal is very much alive here in this 2025 cycle. It's looking like a great chance a few 5-stars will be in this class, even in these early stages here, and Miami seems well on their way to doing really, really well. I mean, when you look at Luke Nickel as a quarterback, a guy that many think is as solid as just about anybody in the country, and then you talk about this running back Gerard Pringle, who he might not be a 5-star, but a lot of people think he's got 5-star level talent. And then you go on from there with guys like a linebacker like Elijah Melendez, and offensive tackle Lamar Williams, and wide receiver Waden Charles. So they're getting this thing in motion. Right now they're ranked 16th nationally in 2025, but it's very early in the game, and we're seeing a lot of really good things on that front, as well as these players parade through Coral Gables. And Matt, we hate to pound you with all this positive energy on the show this morning, but I think even though, like I said at the beginning of the show, it's normal for this time of year for people to feel good about what they're seeing. I think it's real in Coral Gables right now. I think this program is continuing to take forward steps.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it that everything's trending upward. It's a totally different conversation than what we were having before. I predicted before last year that they'd have 10 wins in 2024, playoffs in 2025. There's a little chance they'll be in the playoffs this year if the defense comes together a little bit better in the secondary than I think it might, and if the linebacker depth questions get answered a little bit. But beyond that, and again, this all comes back to what I've always said. Mario's a master recruiter. That is what he is great at. He's probably the best recruiting head coach in the country, and he's been that before he was at Miami also. And it's continued here, and you can see it in the results in recruiting, and it's why Steven doesn't sleep at night and is constantly talking to top 100 prospects in 2024, 2025, and 2026, and 2027, and 2028, and beyond. Because that's what Mario does. Mario's incessant. You can look it up, Gary. It's a real word on the recruiting trail, and persistence may be a better word. But the bottom line is that talent, and this is again comes back to this whole transfer portal conversation Gary and I had earlier, and Steven tried to have. It all comes back to developing the recruits, and what Miami's had so much trouble with in the past is they just never developed the guys they got. And they were hit or miss in some years. They'd have a 2008 class that was amazing, and then not so great, then a great class. It wasn't stacked together. So they always talk about stacking classes. That's what Mario's doing. He's stacking classes, and then you need to see the development. And if you have a good enough roster, it doesn't matter if Mario's perceived and actually is a bad game day coach, because if you have better players than everyone else, I mean, Larry Coker won the national championship with basically a team that was run by its own players. In 2001, it can be done. You just got to be better than everybody else. And right now, Miami's not there, and that's okay, despite what Gary says about, they're great and they're amazing, whatever. Like, they're not there yet. I've seen championship teams at Miami. I've seen championship teams at other places. This is not a championship team. When I watch practice, it's not a championship team yet, and that's okay, because think about where it came from when Mario took the job. Like, why did everyone think all of a sudden it has to be so great? Mario did make some missteps with how he built the roster. Okay, I think he should have built it with his strength, which is just recruiting. Just come in and grab 30 recruits instead of 20 recruits and 10 transfers. Take 30 recruits again the second year instead of 24 recruits and 14 transfers. Like, that's what I think he should have done. I know he was trying to win now and recruit at the same time, but guess what? He didn't win now. He's he's under 500 in the 2 years he took all these transfers, and they're all gone, and he's doing it again this year. He's going to take 15 transfers again before it's all said and done. It's a good way to hold back the progress of your younger classes, because you could have an additional 10 to 15 redshirt freshmen and sophomores on this roster. There was unlimited. Remember, there's unlimited recruiting numbers the last 2 years. You could have an extra 10 to 15 redshirt sophomores on this team right now, competing to start, competing to be one of the country's best teams in 2025. And instead, he tried to win in 2023 and 2024, and it didn't work. And he cost the team roster spots with really young talent.
We don't know yet if it's working in 2024. We haven't played the games yet.
Sorry, 2022 and 2023. It's
early.
early. Give me a break. You know what I meant. I got confused with.
I know what you mean.
Recruiting years, you work ahead. Regular years or actual years, whatever. It doesn't matter. You understand the point.
Bottom line is proof's going to be in the pudding. Proof will be in the pudding.
Well, no, because if you have enough recruiting classes, whether you take 20 or 22 instead of 30 and 32, eventually you're going to have your roster full of 70 guys that you recruited that were 4- and 5-star guys that are going to be, really, really, really good. So yeah, it's just a matter of time. It's just he held his own system back a little bit because he went into the portal and he didn't have success as much as he could have. And he's had tremendous success recruiting. It's just you got to be a little patient in recruiting, and he should have been a little more patient, in my opinion. But he has to, and again, he has to win this year. He has to win this year because based on what his expectations he's laid out for himself in this program, and based on the timelines of other coaches in their third years, if it's another just 7 or 8 win year, man, against this schedule and with the hopes and dreams of Gary Ferman going into this year, I mean, it would crush Gary Ferman if he doesn't win 10 games this year. So it has to happen.
Will. It absolutely will, especially if they go in the portal and get those guys I talked about. It will absolutely crush me if they don't win 10 because
they got to win 10.
They got to win. They got to win. They got to win. And if they get those dudes to fill in with top shelf performers that they don't have right now, they should win. Because
if you can lose to Louisville and FSU and maybe have a reason for it, but you shouldn't lose to Florida. I'm sorry, you just shouldn't lose. I don't care that it's at Florida. Okay, they're not good. They're not that good. And who else can you lose to? Louisville's pretty good. Louisville's pretty good.
I know, but Miami would be pretty good too.
There's no one else you should lose to. That's 2 losses out of the whole year that you can explain away. A third or a fourth or, God forbid, a 5th loss. How do you explain that? You can't. I mean, it's just what is the coach doing at that point? So he's got to. This is the year. This is the year
even you look at Reese Poppenberger at quarterback. If they had to play with him, he can be a winning quarterback.
I think he's looked actually very good, and I think guess what? I think Shikari has looked leaps and bounds better than last year. Is he ready to be an elite college quarterback? Maybe not quite yet, but you could see he can get there.
He is just not better than the 3 ahead of him, but he is definitely getting better.
Which is going to be the shame of it if he leaves, because he could be, competing for the Heisman Trophy in another year or so. I mean, that's how much better he would miss the net before. That's how bad it was with his accuracy, and now he's really so much more on point and so much better. He's showing a touch on his passes we've never seen before, putting air under his passes. We've never seen him do that before on certain throws that he puts a touch on. And you can see it. You can see that he can be that, amazing running, passing, do it all, make great decisions quarterback. And it would just be horrible if he's chased off by Cam Ward this year, decides to transfer out, and then in 2025, he's competing for the Heisman at wherever, I could see that honestly happening.
At West Virginia or something.
Wherever. He could be that good. He's not going to play so much potential.
Yeah, he's not going to play here. So we'll see what happens with Jakari and some of the others here in the next few weeks. But good things are happening in Coral Gables. That's the theme of today's show. That's the bottom line, and we look forward to continuing to watch that. One more note on the website today. We do have a basketball story. There is a prospect from East Carolina. He's a power forward by the name of Brandon Johnson. He is on a multi-day visit to Coral Gables right now, and we talk a little bit about his outlook about the Canes as he is in the midst of that visit. So make sure that you check that out as well. Very key time for Miami basketball, trying to fill in the roster through Matt Shodell's dreaded words, the transfer portal. How about that? So anyway, we thank you so much for starting out your morning with us here on Good Morning CaneSport, as we do everything we can try to do to enhance your fan experience. If you like the show, like the channel, hit your subscribe and like buttons. It does help us with the algorithms at YouTube and growing our audience. If you are not yet a subscriber, to CaneSport.com. Please, please, please come on over to our site, join our community of fans. I don't think you'll be sorry. We do our best every day, like I said, to give you guys a great product and a great community. So for Matt Shodell and Stephen Wagner, I'm Gary Ferman. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next time, everybody.